Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi. We're coming to you from the International Convention Center in Durban, where the Luries are taking place. We'll be looking at the digital categories of these advertising awards tonight. Remember to find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's newsnetwork@sabc.co.za on email. Let's start with your social media and technology news. Cities of the future are more advanced cities. That's why Huawei Technologies held its two-day conference in Johannesburg to showcase technologies that will turn South African cities into smart cities. Producer Lebosi Jake was there.
These are some of the solutions that can be used to turn South African cities into smarter and safer places to live in.
Basically about getting our city to be safe, and what we do is not just safe but smart, and what we do is we get these technologies. We have sophisticated technologies that we have developed that will enable real-time monitoring, real-time communication.
According to Huawei, video calling enabled walkie-talkies such as this one are kind of technologies that allow for a quick emergency response.
So what happens is, in case we have a an emergency situation, we carry this equipment, take it to the site, deploy it, and there is communication instantly. So think about an earthquake, think about a flood.
Ever since talks of turning South African cities into smart cities have started, we have seen the deployment of Wi-Fi hotspots in and around our cities. But the date to which these smart city solutions will be deployed remains unknown for now. Huawei held its two-day technology showcase from Wednesday to Thursday this week here in Johannesburg.
Many Burundians were recently uprooted from their cities and became refugees in neighboring countries. Now they're using technology to communicate with people back home.
The political crisis in Burundi has led thousands of Burundians to flee to neighboring countries where many have been separated from their families. But thanks to mobile technology, these refugees are now able to communicate with their loved ones.
I organized for my wife and children to come to Rwanda first, but my eldest son was left behind in Burundi because he was too sick to travel. I stayed behind to take care of him for a while there, but I had to join the rest of my family here, so I sent him back to Kashora. While he was there, I approached the International Committee of the Red Cross and requested to be reunited with him.
In the Mahama refugee camp in Rwanda, the International Committee of the Red Cross organized these mobile phones to help reunite families.
Nous mettons à leur disposition les appareils téléphoniques, comme ça avec
We put phones at their disposal, and then with the airtime that we buy from telecommunications company, they can try to make contact by calling their loved ones. In addition, there are also unaccompanied minors that we register with the aim of reuniting with their families, be it with family members or parents who stayed in Burundi or those who are in refugee camps.
According to
the International Committee of the Red Cross, more than 19,000 phone calls have been placed on behalf of Burundian refugees trying to contact their families. 6,000 of those haven't gone through yet.
As we continue with our celebration of women in tech this month, we meet a woman who is the first in Africa to receive a drone license.
South Africa is one of the few countries in the world to award the unmanned aircraft license. And this week, we spoke to a young lady who is the first recipient of such license. Here is her story.
I'm Mikkel Swart, and I was born in PE, and I did my commercial pilot's license training in Port Alfred. And then I became a flying instructor and completed my hours to do my airline transport pilot's license, and then once I'd completed that, I'd moved to Johannesburg to further my career at the Civil Aviation Authority. And then this is where I got involved with the drones and unmanned aircraft. Aviation started when I was quite young, and my parents were traveling quite a bit. They were both working outside of the country, and as a kid I was like, I want to fly to where they are, type of thing. And then it just became a passion, and I always wanted to do aviation. Like, I had no other second choice or anything like that. Nobody ever tells you how hard it is. Like, you know, yes, I'm happy where I am now, but it wasn't an easy road. And especially for females, you have to have a voice and you have to stand up and make yourself known, or else you won't get anywhere, especially within aviation. I think it's still very male dominated. But yeah, the 16-year-old me, I'm quite happy with what she turned out to be. We were in a school of 300 students, we were 10 girls. So it's that first adaptation of being surrounded by a lot of confident, maybe arrogant men that you think you shouldn't be there, you know. So it started off with that, and you had to learn to get a tough skin very early, or else it would have been an emotional roller coaster, which it was, but you don't show that to you know. And you know, once you start achieving, then people start saying, especially I don't want to be sexist, but for me it was a case of, oh, you got that, but did you actually put in the work that the guys did, type of thing. So you have to kind of level that plane and make them know that what you're doing is exactly what they're doing. And it's not for everybody. Not every male makes it. Not every female makes it. It's actually, it has nothing to do with your if you're male or female.
Here's what else has been happening in the rest of the technology space.
The MTN App Awards created a buzz in the local tech space this week, with the mobile network provider announcing its top 6 winners of the 4th annual MTN Business App of the Year Challenge. Some of the winners of this year's challenge include fleet management application that allows users to pick up or deliver anything, anywhere, and anytime in real time, warm drop, by developer Benjamin Claassen and Manib.
Money for Jam!
The Money for Jam application scooped the best wildcard app of the year. Now moving on to Silicon Valley, home of some of the greatest tech companies in the world. Google got tongues wagging after announcing that they are restructuring.
Our company is operating well today, but we think we can make it cleaner and more accountable. So we are creating a new company called Alphabet. I'm really excited to be running Alphabet as CEO, with help from my capable partner Sergi as president.
Sundar Pichai, who most recently served as the company's senior vice president of products, will head Google, the search engine division of Alphabet. Google's current director will become directors of Alphabet. The move appeared to be an attempt to let the company focus on its more creative and ambitious project. Talking about tech giant companies, Samsung also made news this week with the announcement of their new payment tool. The mobile device maker will be joining Google and Apple Inc. in the mobile payment space.
You can put the phone near any magnetic strip reader and use the fingerprint sensor, so it's sort of this multiple authentication system, and pay. They tokenize the credit cards just the same way as Apple Pay does.
Though joining the other players in this field, Samsung, however, will be using a different technology than Apple and Google, called MST, which could be an advantage over rivals because retailers don't have to install compatible equipment.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. After the break, we tell you about the digital categories of the Lurie Awards. We're here in Durban. Stay with us. It's SABC Network and social media. Welcome back. Now, close to 3,000 entries were received for this year's Luries. They're all vying for a trophy pretty much similar to the one behind me. We caught up with some of the judges of the digital categories to find out what they thought about this year's entries. YouTube, mobile and email are now a big part of how marketers target potential clients. That's why digital is a massive component of one of the biggest prizes in the advertising space, the Luries. The event, taking place in the Durban's International Convention Center, has more than 140 international judges that come from Cairo, London and New York, just to name a few places.
There are people in their millions who will access the internet for the first time through a mobile phone. And from an advertising perspective, we need to be thinking about that. We need to be designing our content and coming up with our creative ideas for people who will never access it from a computer.
While the current trend in advertising is to switch to mobile and send targeted messages online, the future is in new platforms that are still being tested.
In the last 5 years, the robotic technology has come up so much that if it continues at the same pace, it is going to be something that will have a profound impact on our lives.
Judges say while the platform is important, the message and what companies stand for need to still be there.
We're in a time now where the creative industries, where advertising can no longer be morally neutral. You know, on the one hand, working for an organisation that creates weapons, and on the other hand, you know, working for UNICEF. Like, that's not okay anymore.
There are some that managed to do this really well.
The work I loved were creative executions like One of a Kind, which was for, I believe, an insurance company that talked about all these quirky, idiosyncratic traits that South Africa has. I love that. And I also loved the Guinness. I think it was made of black, which I loved the sense of empowerment.
Piece of work for Unilever, for Omo. It's called Fast Kids, and it's a maths literacy program. And you might at first glance think what's soap powder got to do with maths? But Unilever are enlightened enough to know that they ought to grow the middle class and grow the affluence of people here in order to sell soap powder to them.
While tonight we'll reveal the final batch of winners of this year's Lurie Awards, judges feel that those that didn't win still did a job that impressed them. They say the standard of advertising that takes place in digital platforms here in Africa and the Middle East is clearly high. And earlier in the week, I chatted to Suhana Gordon, who told me more about digital at the Luries. Now, a lot of advertising has moved online nowadays, with emails, YouTube and social media playing a huge role in how we receive information. Joining us from our Durban studios to talk about the digital side of the Luries is Suhana Gordon, who is a creative director at FCB Johannesburg. Hello, and thank you for being a part of our network, Suhana.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Now, Suhana, what are we looking at in the digital, interactive and integrated categories of the Luries?
Well, the Luries is a festival all about creativity and excellence in creativity. So across all categories, including digital, we're looking for work that stands out in terms of innovation. It needs to be something fresh that you haven't seen before. And it really needs to move people, or at least give you a smile.
But surely there must be something different, let's say in digital as opposed to radio and as opposed to television, no?
Yes, I mean, beyond just pure excellence and outstanding characteristics of the work, brilliance in terms of craft, we're looking for excellence within the medium. So, for example, in digital, we're looking for use of technology, excellence in terms of user experience and design. We're looking for the way a piece of work stands out within its category and has the effect of moving an audience.
What goes into selecting some of the winners here?
Well, the festival theme for this year is no, and that's because it takes a lot of no's to get to an eventual resounding yes. So that means scrutiny of the work, it means being highly critical, and it means looking at work with the view of an international standard as well. It means looking at the work from an emotional point of view to see what moves you first, whether it's something that is beautifully crafted, whether it has the ability to interrupt a consumer and invite a consumer to create conversation around that piece of work.
Now the Luries are regional now. There's the whole of the African continent, there's the Middle East. Are we seeing a difference in terms of the digital categories of the Luries, in terms of the entries that are coming in from the rest of the African continent and the Middle East as opposed to what we're seeing in South Africa? What's the difference, or is it all the same standard?
I would say there's definitely more interest. The number of entries are increasing. And I think we're trying to look at it all as one continent, and that is definitely the focus because South Africa is very much a part of that that continent. The work from the rest of the continent does differ slightly in tonality. The work that I looked at certainly had actually quite a humorous approach, quite quirky and quite fresh at the same time. Definitely there are some pieces that were entered that did very well internationally at the Cannes Festival, and that work continues to stand out within the Loeries Advertising Awards.
Could you tell us about the work that stood out for you, whether it's from the judging process this year or whether it's from the past even?
I think particularly this year, just having judged, some of the work that stands out is work that always rises to the top. When you're busy judging it, it keeps coming to mind, and it's kind of a unanimous decision when we're looking at work that is worthy of gold or Grand Prix. The work that stood out in our category was definitely a piece that made use of technology in a very interesting way, a very interactive way. It was fresh. It hasn't been done in this country, certainly, that I know of. And it was absolutely suited to the brand. It was beautifully crafted, a piece of technology that I would love to interact with. There was another piece that really stood out in my mind, and I remember seeing the campaign on social media. And that's always a nice thing to see something and then later on judge it in the judging boardrooms. This particular piece was very moving. It was for a very good social cause, and I was astounded by the reaction that piece of work achieved. It managed to gather a lot of momentum and achieve what it set out to achieve, which was to provide somebody with an organ, very much in need of an organ. And that kind of work really interests me because it's about purpose, it's about a really emotional, strong piece of work that talks to human beings, and that eventually that's what advertising is all about. It's about our core human desires and needs and appealing to those things. So that piece really stood out for me. Yeah, there was a piece that won last year that was about creating the first Black or African emojis, which I think was quite a refreshing piece. Yeah.
All right. Suhana Gordon, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Suhana Gordon is the director at FCB Johannesburg, talking to us about the digital side of the Loerie Awards that are currently taking place in Durban, South Africa. This week, Dr. Precious Moloi Mutsipe told us about her favorite piece of technology.
Hello, my name is Precious Moloi Mutsipe, and my favorite gadget is my iPad. And the reason for that is it contains everything from my work email to friends' emails. It's got my children's pictures, family pictures. It's got books that I love to read. I now download my books, just buy my books and keep them on my iPad, and I can't go anywhere without it.
Let's take a short break. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Welcome back. We're still looking at the digital categories of the Loeries in Durban with the red carpets behind me. Let's see what some people have been sharing in social media.
Dear Casper trended this weekend with non-fans of the South African rapper saying some pretty harsh words on the microblogging site. Hashtag TEDx Cape Town trended on Saturday as the event took place at the Cape Town City Hall on Saturday. The Australian Wallabies got a 41-13 beatdown by the New Zealand All Blacks for the Bloody Slow Cup. This had tweets typing away, making the game trend on Twitter.
That's all we have for you tonight. Remember to find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From Ms. Phumelele Zondi and the rest of the team right here at the International Convention Center in Durban, it's good night.